Nigeria is blessed with 92.4 million hectares of land. Out of this landmass, about 79 million hectares is suitable for growing crops. However, do you know that only 35 out of the 79 million hectares of arable land is actually being utilized for agricultural purposes? And while lamenting the fact that Nigeria's arable land is not being put to maximal use, climate change is also threatening arable farmland in the country with grave consequences. Well, tonight we are focusing on the effort of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security and other stakeholders to put the nation's arable land to maximal use while also managing the negative effects of climate change. How is this being done, you may ask? Well, stay tuned for the full program coming your way after this timeout. I am your host, Gabriel Ojile, welcoming you to the program Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria. Please stay tuned.
Every part of Nigeria has something to offer.
Before we explore the potentials of Nigeria's arable land and the threat of climate change, we have news from the diary of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. In our lineup tonight, federal government inaugurates National Ginger Blight Epidemic Control Task Force. Also, Nigeria and Vietnam partner to enhance rice and cashew value chain. Details of these in a moment. Keep watching. The federal government and the Republic of Vietnam have agreed to partner in rice and cashew value chains to enhance the qualities of Nigeria rice and cashew, boost production, and enhance value addition. Speaking during the meeting of the stakeholders, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, explained that Nigeria is doing well in rice production and will welcome collaboration with Vietnam to upscale rice value chain to bridge the gap between the country's production level and the demand.
We have made a lot of significant strides within a few years, and we are still on it now, and I think we have the plans to even surpass, because the deficit is not much, it's really small, and I think we'll be able to cover that deficit in the near future, even though we have some few challenges here and there, insecurity and other things, climate change for instance, and flooding, because a lot of some of the problems that we had in recent times is the massive flooding, especially in the rice belts of KB, Dampa, some places like that. So, but however, we are trying assiduously to see how we can mitigate such occurrences.
Presenting the areas of collaboration between the ministry and Vietnam, the Director of Planning and Policy Coordination, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Ibrahim Tanimu, highlighted the expected results.
Vietnam has excelled very well in rice and cashew processing and marketing. So we want to learn from the model of Vietnam, and we want to invite investors from Vietnam to come to Nigeria and invest in these value chains. Training programs for Nigerian farmers and sanitation workers on Vietnamese rice and cashew cultivation techniques. We are also interested in learning the best practices from Vietnam in the production of rice and cashew. Then, training programs for youth on fabrication of agricultural equipment, production and processing.
Also speaking, the representative of Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, which was contacted to provide technical support in actualizing the project, expressed their commitment to ensuring that the collaboration between the two countries attains the desired result.
It will interest you to know that with Nigeria's capacity, most of the countries within sub-Saharan Africa stands to benefit. If Nigeria is self-sufficient on the two commodities I've just mentioned, I'm sure the rest of sub-Saharan Africa will be benefiting from this program. So as a result of that, a number of processes were kick-started. One was to do a needs assessment that was carried out last year. The second one was then to do the needs assessment validation with the respective directors. This was also done last year. And then the last one was to undertake a study tour to Vietnam to understand their system in terms of rice and cashew nut value chain.
In an effort to tackle ginger blight in Kaduna, Nasarawa, Plateau, Abuja and other affected states, the federal government has inaugurated the National Ginger Blight Epidemic Control Task Force. The Minister of State, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, who inaugurated the task force on behalf of the federal government, stated that preliminary estimates suggest that the affected farmers in southern Kaduna lost over 12 billion naira. The Minister of State, however, revealed that the federal government, through the National Agricultural Development Fund, will launch a 1.6 billion naira recovery package for the affected farmers in the ginger-producing communities. He added that the National Ginger Blight Epidemic Control Task Force will work to address the challenges.
This task force will serve as the cornerstone of our response going forward, bringing together the expertise of researchers, extension agents, farmers, and mostly our other value chain actors. Together, we will overcome this challenge and build a more resilient ginger industry.
There is no doubt that the
Speaking on behalf of the members of the task force, the chairman of the National Ginger Blight Epidemic Control Task Force, Abdullahi Abubakar, stated that ginger blight has great negative effects on the gross domestic product of the country, and it is imperative that committees are put in place to mitigate the challenges caused by the disease.
I sincerely want to appreciate all the members of the committees who have been working tirelessly to see that the Nigerian ginger is salvaged. A lot of work has gone into where we are today. So far, we have had the national workshop, and a lot is currently going on.
You are watching Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria. Earlier on, I did say that we shall be looking at the nation's land potentials and the threat of climate change. Land is a fixed asset that never increases in size or moves from one location to another. But the proper utilization of agricultural land and management of the soil determines the fertility of the land for agricultural purposes. In our next segment, Record of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, we shall focus on efforts of the ministry in ensuring that the country's arable land is put into effective use and the negative effects of climate change are mitigated. Keep watching.
Arable land is a land that can be cultivated and has the potential to support the growth of crops. Nigeria is blessed with 79 million hectares of land that can be used for agricultural purposes. However, only 35 million hectares, representing 44.1%, is put to use. The remaining 39 million hectares is left unused or under the threat of climate change. In the nation's quest for food security, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security has a Department of Agricultural Land and Climate Change Management Services to ensure effective utilization of agricultural land resources in the country for food security. The Director, Agricultural Land and Climate Change Management Services of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, or Shadia Olanipekun, sheds more light on the mandate of the department.
The overall mandate is to effectively manage agricultural land resources for food security and provide climate smart services in order to reduce the impact and build the resilience of our nation's farming community.
The department also has 5 divisions for effective management of the nation's agricultural land. These include Land Use, Planning and Conservation Division, Soil Survey and Land Evaluation, Soil Testing and Laboratory Services Division, Integrated Soil and Water Management Division, and Soil Facility Management Division.
The Soil Survey Division is to group soils of similar characteristics into a unit and be able to provide information to farmers on what kind of crop or what kind of farming activities that can be carried out on these various soil units that have been divided. The soil fertility management divisions are, to me, like our pharmacists. They determine the kind of, they recommend crop-specific fertilizer for the various crop commodities that farmers will grow.
There is a Planning and Conservation Division in the Department of Agricultural Land and Climate Change Management Services. Its director, Bella Muhammad, throws more light on the Land Use, Planning and Conservation Division.
This division, we started with the responsibility of advising the farmers of how they can use their land. Because as I told you that this component, you are after you maximize the use of land, maximizing the use of land is to make sure that you maintain the fertility of the soil that is intact, that is conserving the land. Normally this division is the division that even carries land development. It's under this division that we do land development before the creation of NALDA.
Added to the fact that the nation is not putting all of its arable land to good use, there are other challenges that threaten what is being farmed. These challenges include desertification, flooding, poor agricultural practices on the land, insecurity, lack of soil testing and inadequate soil testing facilities, as well as lack of mechanization to open up more lands, among others. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is not unaware of these challenges. Over the years, the ministry, in collaboration with Nigeria's Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA, has been able to develop some agricultural land which it handed over to the farming communities.
The ministry still assists the farmers because if you go to the south, you will see a lot of land. You see the land that the cost of production is very high. So the ministry normally use that to assist the farmers to develop the land. Developing the land is they clear the land, looking at looking at all the conservative measures. We will clear the land for them. We will harrow the land. We will do ridging and we will plow it for them. Then we will return back to the community. The essence of that the ministry is doing is to make sure that they create job opportunity for the teeming youth and to encourage the youth to go back to farm.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is also making an effort to have soil mapping and testing across the country to know the composition of the soil and to effectively guide the farmers and investors.
Made mention about soil survey that gives us that we try to map soil units of similar characteristics. We have that as at 1980, but we mapped it at a scale of 1 to 600,000, which is not adequate. But presently, we have commenced the mapping at 1 to scale of 25,000. The soil testing is to make us equally provide soil maps, soil fertility maps for our farmers, for investors who wish to have the knowledge, a foreknowledge of what your soil entails.
Nigeria has about 5 major soil testing laboratories across the country to render soil testing services to farmers, but this is inadequate. However, there is a renewed effort by the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to have mini soil labs in the 774 local government areas of the country to make soil testing more accessible and affordable. This is coming under the National Soil Health Card Scheme.
This National Soil Health Card Scheme is a program that wants to help the farmers to know what is the status of their own soil. That's from the technical aspect. What is the status of almost we want to make sure that the farmers, Nigerian farmers, everybody know how much potentiality of his land. What is the potentiality of his land? So once you know the potentiality of the land, from there you can be even advised, no, I'm supposed to put coffee, or I'm supposed to put maize, or I'm supposed to use wheat or rice, or no, let me go for cash crops. Your card will tell you that, because at the end you'll be advised on the which crops you'd be advised to grow.
The importance of soil testing cannot be overemphasized. It helps farmers know the nutrient level of the soil, the type of crop to grow, and the quantity of fertilizer to apply, among others.
The right policy for a farmer to take in is to make sure that he conserves his soil. Because as I told you from the beginning, that soil as an entity is not like a man that will marry so many wives and will have so many children. Soil is, if you know the land 1 hectare, 20 years ago, if you go back, it is the same land, you will see 20 hectares. You will not see the increase. But the problem is that that land, if you do not maintain the fertility of that soil, now you are in trouble. That is why we as a department, we always encourage that farmers, they should test their soil.
Aside soil testing, it is also important for farmers to embrace other good agricultural practices in order to maintain the fertility of the soil. Little wonder then that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is advocating for conservation agriculture, agroforestry, natural regeneration, appropriate fertilizer applications, climate-smart agriculture, minimum tillage system, among other healthy practices.
We equally carry out what we call agroforestry, which is a major one now, is cropping or cultivating within a forested area, within a forest area. So this way we will tend to maintain, or the soil conservation is one of the activities that is minimum tillage. That is, we try to disturb the soil minimally in order to prevent the emissions of greenhouse gases such as nitrous oxide. This way we equally tend to prevent climate change.
The program is transforming agriculture in Nigeria, and we have been discussing Nigeria's agricultural land resources and the effort of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security in ensuring effective land management for food security. But the ministry is not an island on its own, especially since constitutionally, land belongs to state governments. In our next segment, Partnership for Development, we are focusing on partnerships and collaboration between the ministry and the various state governments, as well as research institutes and other stakeholders in developing agricultural land in the country. Keep watching.
Although agriculture is in the concurrent legislative list, all land belongs to the state government. For the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security to effectively manage agricultural land and ensure food security, it has to collaborate with the state government.
You are well aware that the 1978 Land Use Act vested solely land to the state governors, excepting in places where some land are vested on federal and its agencies. And because of these, what we do basically is to ensure that we liaise with states, our subnationals, in order to apportion available land for agriculture. And they, in return, in order for us to open up more land for agricultural practices, they approach us and tell us that these are areas where these lands can be used for agricultural purposes, and they require our intervention on that. So that is how we synergize with subnationals in order to ensure that these lands are made available for our smallholder farmers as well as large-scale farmers.
The Department of Agricultural Land and Climate Change Management also collaborates internally with other departments of the ministry, as well as external collaboration with the Institute of Soil Science, Soil Science Society of Nigeria, among others.
We also partner with other international organizations and national organizations like the Soil Science Society of Nigeria. That is as a society, not as an institute. They are also our partners. In terms of the institute, also they are partners. We are implementing agencies, they are regulators. We are policy makers and they are to regulate. Like anything to do with soil activities, we engage members of the Soil Science Society of Nigeria to come and put input into it. When we create a policy, we use the members of the soil science to implement the policy, and we use the institute to regulate.
The ministry also collaborates with development partners such as Agroclimate Resilience in Semi-Arid Landscape, ACRISAL, to reclaim degradable land. The project, as disclosed by Joy Iganya Agene, task team lead of ACRISAL, during a courtesy call to the minister, is targeted at reclaiming 1 million hectares of degraded farmland across 19 northern states and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, within 6 years. The project, which commenced in June 2022, has been able to reclaim 4,000 hectares of degraded land.
The main deliverable is to restore 1 million hectares of degraded land in the northern parts of the country and to strengthen institutions.
Reacting to the briefing on the project, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, appreciated the team and urged members to scale up efforts to ensure that the target of 1 million hectares is achieved within the 6 years.
Our appreciation on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security for having time to come and address us today and brief us on your program. You have also listened to our comments and concerns, and I hope you would take it upon yourselves to see that those issues are addressed so that we can all move the project forward.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security also partners with the Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Environment and Research Institutes.
I think around June, we are going to be hosting the Soil Science Society of the conference. Soil Science Conference is coming up, and the department is the host. As well as Research Institute, we have been collaborating with ARCN, which is the regulator of all the other research institutes effectively well. They are part of our committee in implementing this National Farmer Soil Health Card scheme. So I think so far so good. We have a perfect relationship with all the institutions you have mentioned.
While government and other stakeholders are making efforts to open up more land for agricultural purposes, it is imperative for more citizens and foreign investors to venture into agriculture to derive the benefits therein.
Farming is very productive. Let me give you a rough idea of why I said farming is very productive. Recently, we farmed wheat on 118,000 hectares of land. And we're expecting a yield of roughly 3.2 tons per hectare, which will give us 600,000 tons over the 118,000 hectares of land. And a ton of wheat right now, averagely in the market, is 600,000. And if you multiply that with 600,000 tons of wheat that is going to be produced the dry season, the nation will be bringing in close to about 2.2 billion naira into our economy.
You have heard it all. You don't need to apply 10 bags of fertilizer because the other farmer applied same in his or her land. Your land nutrient requirement may differ. Test your soil before farming and also adopt other agricultural practices that can keep the agricultural land fertile and productive. We have come to the end of tonight's episode of the program. Keep a date with us, same time, same station, next week. Do have a pleasant night rest.